a couple of things about lunging. There are lots of different variations that you can do for lunging to make them more muscle specific depending on what you want to go for. If you want to be hitting the muscles of the quads more so, the muscles of the glutes or the hamstrings, it all depends on the way that you want to do them. So I'm going to go through the basic lunge mechanics first, and that would be make sure that your whole foot is planted properly on the ground at the front, making sure the back knee drops all the way down. The two main things you want to focus on with a nice tall spine. Something like this. You're going to take your step. If it's a walking lunge, then it's going to look something like this. Okay. When you take your strides, you want to make sure that you're staying with a tall body, and you're going to take a long enough stride as well. It's a basic walking lunge. The variations that you can take can make the movement more quad dominant if you want to develop your quad, if you want to make your muscles grow on the front of your thigh, or they can make it more glute dominant or more hamstring dominant so that you can make the muscles in the back of your thigh grow. If you want to do a quad dominant lunge, all you have to do is simply shorten your stride. That's going to allow your knee to travel further forward over the toe. As long as you keep a flat foot, there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of controversy as to whether or not your knees should travel past your toes. They need to. If you walk up or down stairs, it's going to happen anyway. Other scenarios in real life, it makes it happen. We do bear load with our knees traveling over our toes. Having said that, a short step lunge will look something like this. It's going to involve a lot more of a closed hip position. It's going to involve a smaller knee angle as well, which makes the movement much more dominant through the quads. I recommend using dumbbells, if anything, to do this load. Second thing, hamstring dominant. This is where the angles change again. You can take the same lunging strides that I took at the very beginning of this video, but how I would modify it is by changing the position of the torso. When we do a deadlift or a stiff-legged deadlift or a Romanian deadlift or something like that, we can see that the hip angle is what's changing dominantly. When the hip angle changes, it creates a lot more tension through the hamstrings especially. They get pulled tight. So all we're going to do is apply that to our lunges. We take our step, they'll lean in ever so slightly. That's going to make this muscle right here get pulled nice and long and have a lot more range to extend through. These can be done stationary, they can be done walking, it doesn't matter, but it's going to hit the posterior chain a little bit more. That's how to do a hamstring dominant lunging exercise. Now, if you want to really start getting a little bit more advanced, you can train other capacities of your muscles as well, and that's where we add a deficit to our movements. There are lots of different variations for deficit lunges, but you always have to start on top of the box and making sure that the middle of your foot is in the middle of the box. So I'm going to show you a forward lunge, and that's going to help train the quads, not only to decelerate the body as you land, but also for your push off, there's going to be a deficit where the quads have to work a little bit harder to come back up. So it's going to look something like this. Take your step, drive right back up to the box. When you do it this way, again, you have that deficit that you have to overcome to come back up onto the box, and it's going to make your quads work a lot harder to come back up. It takes a lot of deceleration, and if you're not at a certain level or you're not advanced, then I wouldn't recommend doing it with anything more than body weight until you learn the form and technique properly. The opposite, if you want to train the glutes and hamstrings to do a little bit more work than normal, you can turn it into a reverse lunge from a deficit. Same idea, make sure the foot's centered, and make sure the knee goes all the way down. And all of a sudden, that working leg has a lot more to do to bring yourself back up to the top neutral position. So those are a few different variations of the lunges. We went through walking variations, we went through stationary variations, and we added a deficit to hit both the quads and the hamstrings depending on what you're going for. That's it.